Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with Norsca, going to be taking on the Lizardmen. Got a couple games for you today. We're going to be taking a look at some rush builds and kind of talking about rush builds in general. So let's get to it. I've got Wulfric on a horse here, front line of Marauders, second line of Berserkers, third line of Famir, including a Famir Balefiend, Lord of Shadows. He's got Melkos Mystifying Miasma, Enfeebling Foe, and the Penumbral Pendulum. We've also got some Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, 4 in total, 2 to each side. That's pretty much it. For my opponent, he's got a couple of Saurus Spears on each flank, 2 Skink Cohort, a single Temple Guard, some Skink Cohort with Javelins, a Feral Bastiladon, a Rev Crystal, kroq'gar, and a Skink Priest Lord of Beasts up on a Ancient Stegodon. So without further ado, let's get the battle underway. You can see we're going to be pulling up in range and starting to pitch some axes into the side here. My opponent doesn't have any really long range firepower, so he can't really respond to this in any way. He's going to drop these skinks with javelins over to try and respond, but you know, they'll do okay. Looks like one of those marauders actually got caught up by the Saurus there and dragged down, but yeah, overall not too bad. The idea with this build is that we're going to just rush heavy in the front line. The Famir hits super hard, especially when combining with the Berserkers. Berserkers in general will just cut through most Lizardmen infantry. And yeah, the Enfeebling Foe going to go down on the Bastiladon there, and all throughout the front line you can see Skinks jumping up. We've got the Berserkers getting in here and just cutting things up. Marauders will do okay against Saurus. They'll lose even to Saurus Spears, but with the support of the Berserkers, of course, it's going to be pretty rough. You can see them getting in here with their anti-infantry and their high weapon strength. They can cut through Saurus very, very effectively, especially Saurus Spears. You can see the Rev Crystal is going to try and come support in the front line, but kroq'gar, unfortunately, going on a wild goose chase, going after these Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, and they're going to love that engagement, just throwing axes at him all day, doing a ton of damage to him. Meanwhile, the Famir haven't been thrown in. Obviously, I don't want to just throw them into Saurus Spears here, so we're using them to kind of support in the back line anytime a dino punches through. You can see there the Sea Fang went off, just got a ton of kills, and then immediately we're going to follow up with the Penumbral Pendulum. At least I thought it was immediately, maybe not quite immediately. Here it is, the Penumbral Pendulum, then following up right after, going right on top of the Temple Guard. So with that double win spell and the fact that we were already winning the infantry fight, means this infantry fight is going to collapse very, very quickly. You can see the bounce power is already gone and heavily in our favor, and just the amount of shock damage here the Lizardmen could not withstand, unfortunately. So it does look like the Norscan rush is going to win the day today. Miststalker's obviously providing some terror as well. The Regiment of Renown Famir here. Now, what could you do to counter this as a Lizardman? Well, personally, I would say you definitely don't want to bring kroq'gar up on Grimlock in this matchup. You also probably could cut the Feral Bastiladon and cut the Ancient Stegodon off this Skink Chief here. Because the Norskins are very good at taking down monsters, it's going to be very risky to bring the dinos. The Rev Crystal is probably not a bad idea, just because a Rev Crystal, the healing you can get from it alone makes it worthwhile. But yeah, you can see my opponent is going to admit defeat there. In terms of the rest of his build, like I said, I would definitely cut down some of the big dinos and then just go with more Temple Guard. I think Temple Guard will do pretty decently in this matchup. If we go ahead and have a look here at the custom battle screen, and we go to Lizardmen, and we're taking on Norsca. So again, Norsca is very much centered around hunting big monsters, so you just don't want to play into that. kroq'gar is a pretty solid option to take on foot. Hand of the Gods, just in case they bring Throg, that way he can blast him in the face. These other items you may or may not, or sorry, abilities you may or may not want to cut if you want to save on some cost. Lore of Beasts, not too bad, but as you guys probably know, I like Lore of Heavens a bit better, so I'm going to grab that instead. Harmonic Convergence, Wind Blast, Curse the Midnight Wind for this particular matchup, and the Cube of Darkness, of course, is always a good bring. Basically, for those of you guys who don't know, the Cube of Darkness just greatly reduces your opponent's power recharge. So right after they cast a spell, you pop this on them, and they're going to have a hard time getting their Winds of Magic back. And because it's a relatively short cooldown, only lasts 18 seconds, but still, you can spam this quite a bit and keep your opponent from getting a effective magic. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and tank up on some Temple Guard here. Solar Spears, probably not the worst idea in the world, so we'll grab a couple of them. Let's see here, what else? The Rev Crystal, probably not a bad idea as well. And we are going to want some range firepower and some skinks, so we'll grab some cohort just to fill out some numbers, maybe some skink skirmishers as well. So something like this I think would be probably a bit more effective, just because you've got a heavier infantry line with the Temple Guard, and I mean the Solar Spears will do okay. You may want to honestly just cut them for some anti-infantry type Saurus rather than the Spears, because your Temple Guard can kind of handle the Famir, and then your other Saurus Warriors will trade a bit more effectively with things like Berserkers, although honestly you're probably going to want your ranged units dealing mostly with them. You could also do something like grab a Skink Chief, put him up on a Pterodon. We're a little bit short on cost here, so maybe we cut one of the Javelins off the Skink cohort or something. But yeah, something like this I think might be pretty effective. Let me know what you guys think, though. Let's go ahead and go to the second game of today's kind of rush build focus. Today we're playing the Greenskins, and my opponents also brought a bit of a rush build with Chaos. Of course, Chaos a very rushy faction, as are the Greenskins, but in my opinion, the three strongest rush factions are the Greenskins, the Dark Elves, and Norsca as well. Those three I think are going to be your strongest rush factions. Chaos is pretty strong in rush, especially if they go monster heavy. I may put them up there as well. Greenskins can go a lot of different ways too. They don't necessarily just have to play the rush, but they are one of the strongest rush factions, especially with WoW being what it is right now. Wurzag tossing out his buffs. To that effect, we do have Wurzag up on his pig here. He's got Effigy to get, Fists of Gork, Here We Go, and Gaze of Mork, just to give him extra procs of the Bonewood Staff, and he's got the Squiggly Beast. Broken Tusk Mob on the side here. Infantry line is going to be 4 Nasty Skulkers, 2 Savage Orc Biggins, 2 Black Orcs, Warlord's Boys, and the 8-Peak Loonies in the front line with some Goblins as a meat shield. We've also got the Mangy Marauders, of course, and some Spider Riders over on the side here. So, yeah, for my opponent, he's got some Marauders in the front line, Mirror Guard, Archaon the Everchosen on foot. Let's see, he's got Burning Head and Cascading Fire Cloak, Forsaken out on each flank, 2 Chaos Warriors with Halberds, 1 Chaos Warrior with Great Weapons, and 2 Chosen with Great Weapons. So without further ado, the Waa's been popped all across the line here, going to be charging in, and Skulkers will actually trade very, very well while the Waa's up with Forsaken. You can see them up to 66 melee attack with the Opportunist Murder and everything going off. And yeah, in the front line, obviously Biggins and more cutting through Marauders. The Warlord's Boys will help sunder the armor here, so that the Biggins will do more effectively. The Savage Orc Biggins, that is. Nice Fanatics cast going straight through the center there. And yeah, and as soon as that Waa drops, we're going to drop that Here We Go in the center. Nice Burning Head from my opponent. Going to do some pretty good damage in the front line, but you can see already the Chaos Force is suffering. Chosen in the back line getting charged by the Soup Pig Boys and the Spider Riders as well. Not going to be the best in sustained combat, but we will be able to do some good shock damage with the armor piercing of the Boars there. See the Chosen taking quite a bit of damage, and the front line for Chaos already starting to collapse a little bit, especially with that Here We Go dropped in this pocket. Again, the Nasty Skulker is going to be super cost effective here with their buffed up melee attack. And yeah, it's just madness here. Black Orcs up to 93 with that Here We Go up, and with the Bonewood Staff as well. Now dropping down to 80 once that Bonewood Staff is gone, but still, just absolute madness. Yeah, my opponent definitely needed a bit of a different build here as well. I think this is actually one situation kind of the opposite of the last match, where you would actually want some monsters. The Greenskins are generally weak to terror. Not all of the units I've brought here are weak to terror, but certainly it would be useful to get away like these Nasty Skulkers, for example, who are all trading very cost effectively here, just dragging down these Chosen, you know, sliding in their little daggers into their ankles and just dragging them down to the ground. It's absolutely brutal. Archaon himself going to be pretty hard to take down. but at the end of the day, if he doesn't have an army left to fight with, it's going to be pretty tough. Warzag there taking down an Exalted Hero and dropping some leadership buffs as well. So yeah, at this point, the Chaos Forces are not long. Yeah, like I was saying, opposite of the last one, I think you do need some monsters here. If you just try and go infantry on infantry, the Greenskins are probably... Maybe the Dark Elves have an argument for being just as good, but Greenskins are some of the best infantry on infantry fighters in the game, so to try and play into that, I think would be incredibly risky, not having any shock units, and I think that's where Chaos strengths lie more so than just strong infantry. They do certainly have strong infantry. Chosen with great weapons are some of the strongest infantry in the game, certainly, but overall, I think you have a better chance with shock units with Chaos. And what do I mean by that? Well, things like Chaos Knights with lances, chariots, even Gorbeast chariots, you know, you have Shaggoths, regular Dragon Ogres. You have a lot of units, even like Chaos Spawn and Trolls, that can do a lot of shock damage, which means they do a lot of damage on the charge. You know, a lot of them cause terror as well. So, yeah, you can just get in there, really mess your opponent up very, very quickly. And the Greenskins, you know, they're super strong, like I said, in that infantry on infantry, and with the WA and with Warzag's buffs, you're never going to win that fight. So I would think instead you want to try and hit and run with mobile shock units like Chaos Knights with lances, you know, Shaggoths, Dragon Ogres, things like that. If we go ahead and have a look here one more time at another post-battle screen. Yeah, Chaos definitely has a strong rush, but it needs to be a little bit of a different focus against the Greenskins, I think. So if we go ahead and change it over here, I probably would go with a build with maybe a couple Chaos Knights with lances. Maybe we grab the Summoners of Rage as well to be kind of an elite choice. Big Bird, honestly, probably not a bad option here. It gives you your caster and lord in one. He's also pretty resistant to missiles if your opponent decides to go with the heavy missile greenskin build with like a lot of Orc Boys or Savage Orc Air Boys or, you know, the Rusty Airs, things like that. Can potentially be risky, so Big Bird's pretty good at countering that. Final Transmutation is also going to be very good against the Greenskins because it'll pretty much clear their lord out. And there's not really a lot they can do to stop it, so you can kind of put their lord on a clock a little bit. And that in and of itself is very useful. So because we're only going to be focusing that one spell, I'm going to cut the metal shifting and everything else to make Big Bird as cheap as possible. Then we've got the two Chaos Knights with lances, Summoners of Rage here. We obviously do want some infantry, so I might grab like a couple of Chosen with shields, then we maybe fill out some extra numbers with some Marauders. At this point we have a couple more points to get a couple of Marauder Horsemen here. So something like this I think might be pretty decent against the Greenskins. You've got your Terror with Big Bird, you've got your Lord Sniping with the Final Transmutation, a solid infantry line that's going to hold for quite a while, especially these Chosen with their 60 melee defense. Although with the timing push from the Greenskins, they can definitely get up higher than this, so you'll have to be careful about that. But then you also have the two Chaos Knights with lances, the Throwing Axes for a little bit of skirmish, and of course the Summoners of Rage for that elite anti-large AP. So, yeah, I think something like this might be a little bit better against the Greenskins, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this quick double rush cast. Just had a couple of shorter replays that I wanted to bring to you guys, so I figured I would jam them together in this one video. So let me know what you thought about that. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.